The H-1B visa kerfuffle. The cringiest MAGA battle. We should just talk about it briefly. I want to get your guys' thoughts, and I want to get your thoughts on specifically Bernie Sanders' angle here and what you make of it. So, okay, H-1B visas are granted by employers for 3 years. They can be extended to 6. It's helping professionalized skilled labor get into the United States. It's mostly for architecture, engineering, mathematics, physical sciences, social sciences, medicine and health, education, business specialties, accounting, law, theology, and the arts. So, not farm workers, right? These are sort of middle income, but not really, because of how exploited they are. There's a cap of 65,000 H-1B visas a year, an additional 20,000 allowed for if you have advanced degrees, and they are visas that are exploited by tech billionaires, the likes of Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, which is why Musk threatened to go to war. The reason I'm in America, along with so many critical people who built SpaceX, Tesla, and hundreds of other companies that made America strong, is because of H-1B. Take a big step back and f yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend. There's so much happening in this. Number one, yourself in the face. It just doesn't work. That doesn't work for me. I don't know how many like yoga poses he's practicing.
If you can yourself in the face, you got a fucking big hog. So I don't really know that that's the biggest slam in the world. If it's like, hey, if you don't like it, yeah, take your big, beautiful dick and just lovingly go to town on yourself with it. Okay,
sure. If you can f yourself in the face, first of all, you deserve a visa because that is a professional skill. Yeah. You should get into this country and teach lessons. And number two, you'd not be on X wasting time. You'd be f***ing yourself in the face.
Neuralink, I think, has pioneered the rib removal procedure, so it doesn't have to be big.
Those monkeys are just straight sucking their own dick. Sorry. So the other part about this is it's the reason I'm in America. I'm like, okay, whatever that reason is, I immediately hate. Like, whatever's the reason you are here in this country, get rid of that. So it's not going to endear me to your cause. So I'll go to war on this. And then Vivek sort of followed up. This really stung. And it's very long. I apologize. So Vivek tweets, the reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born first-generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Tough questions demand tough answers, and if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, at least since the 90s and likely longer. That doesn't start in colleges, it starts young. A culture that celebrates. So you're like, okay, what culture is that? Is it a culture that allows like billionaires to, import workers, underpay them, not invest in American education? Like, is that the culture? No. It's even dumber. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World or Zach and Slater over Screech in Saved by the Bell or Stefan over Steve Urkel in Family Matters will not produce the best engineers, but it will produce good shows.
Examples. These are all really relevant culturally.
Like, exactly. Like, this is the most, like, I am so embarrassed to be a millennial. Like, I want to die. Like, this is how you know, like, it's no longer Gen X. It's millennials that are, like, the most awful, even though I think he technically might be Gen X. But, like, can we just... First of all, number one, it makes terrible television why don't we have a show all about engineers? That being said, Silicon Valley is great, despite the predators who were in that cast. But it is a really good show. So, like, maybe touche, but mostly making fun of it. My favorite part, though, is Screech. Guys, Screech was a stalker. I just need to say this. Screech wasn't smart. He was like a stalker. He stalked Lisa perpetually. And there's there's a difference between like geek, nerd, and dweeb. So geek, I think, is like board games. Nerd is like, I'm smart. Math. Dweeb is like stalker. You know what I'm saying? Screech was a dweeb. Elon is a dweeb.
So also Stefan Urkel was just as smart as Steve Urkel. I believe he just simply was much smoother and cooler was the whole thing. Like he wasn't dumber.
Yeah, he was also just less of a stalker. Like he wasn't weird to Lisa, speaking another Lisa who was stalked. Right? Yeah. No, Laura, I can't believe Steve Urkel. I can't believe you pronounced it correct. More movies like Whiplash, which is about the abuse of a child who you want to get to play the drums. Fewer reruns of Friends, more math tutoring, fewer sleepovers, more weekend science competitions, fewer Saturday morning cartoons, more books, less TV, more creating, less chillin', more extracurriculars, less hanging out at the mall. Oh God, there are no more malls. Like what? And so on and on and on and on. Guys, this is just like as an Asian, like he wants to tiger mom America. Like he wants to just like make us practice our piano scales over and over and over again. Just like, haven't we seen the Joy Luck Club? Don't we see what happens when you push your kids too far? They reject you. Speaking of 90s films.
But the Whiplash reference I thought was especially funny because, like you point out, it is about an abusive music professor. But the way that young kids consume that movie now, I don't know if you have seen these edits on TikTok of Whiplash.
No.
Where they use AI to replace the dialogue, and instead, like that famous scene where Miles Teller is like being berated in front of the whole orchestra about rushing or dragging. They've replaced those words with like edging and gooning. And you could just like, it's just, they are consuming brain rot edits of that movie. What he thinks would help instill discipline and work ethic and a prioritization of education through a movie about abuse is just being consumed through the brain rot lens of kids on TikTok.
Edging, gooning. These are words I want to know in the year 2025, but I won't.
There's still time. You have until Friday until TikTok gets banned.
Isn't that like their base of support now? The like Trump wing of the Republican Party is guys who like jack off for 5 straight hours every day. Like the idea that these guys are the height of like that Aiden Ross's viewers are like taking a break from doing math drills to watch Aiden Ross. It's insane. The people who love these guys are the true degenerate, like the sad degenerates of society who we do need like social programs to rescue them from the holes they have put themselves in emotionally and mentally.
Okay, so let's go back to like the point of this, right? Which is the visas. Now, these guys are, of course, are like part of the DOGE, government efficiency branch. And I didn't want to play Laura Loomer, but it's basically you've got the MAGA elites against the MAGA racists. And who are the MAGA racists? They're obviously all the neo-Nazis in your replies. They are Laura Loomer and they are Steve Bannon, right? And they are the ones who are like, I thought you were serious about getting rid of all immigrants, because again, a lot of the H-1B visas go to immigrants, but more particularly brown immigrants, right? South Asian immigrants. So that's important to note. And they're like, no, we're against all of them. And so there is this war where you're like, I hate everyone on all sides of this. But it is interesting to point out the like hypocrisies of this idea that billionaires are looking out for like the American workforce or any workforce for that matter, because it's important to not, I think like as we navigate this as leftists, to not pick a side at its face value and not say like, well, we support Elon and, Vivek because the other side seems to be racist, or we support the racist base because we hate these billionaire elites. It's like, no, the H-1B visa holders are also being victimized too, right? They're also being exploited as well. And all of this is sort of, it's just really terrifying. Along comes Bernie. Please, Bernie, make sense. Please appease MAGA racists and stick it to the elites. So Bernie tweeted, a few days ago. Elon Musk is wrong. The main function of H-1B visas program is not to hire the best and brightest, but to replace good-paying American jobs with low-wage, indentured servants from abroad. The cheaper they hire, the more money the billionaires make. So here's Bernie trying to like neoliberalism whisper everybody, meaning like explaining neoliberalism to the rubes. Like, okay, so here's the deal. Here's what free trade actually means. You call it globalism. It's actually just where corporations get to, capital gets to move wherever they want. Workers cannot. And then they move workers around when they see fit and exploit the workforce. Okay, so there's a long statement, but I wanted to read it to y'all. He says, there's been a lot of discussions lately about the H-1B visa guest worker program. Elon and a number of other billionaire tech company owners have agreed this federal program is vital to our economy because of the scarcity of high-skilled American engineers and other tech workers. I disagree. The main function of the H-1B visa program and other guest worker initiatives is not to hire the best and brightest, rather to replace good-paying American jobs with low-wage indentured servants. That's what I just read. In 2022 and 2023, the top 30 companies using the program laid off at least 85,000 American workers while they hired over 14,000 new H-1B guest workers. There are estimates that as many as 33% of all new information technology jobs in America are being filled by guest workers. Further, according to Census Bureau data, there are millions of Americans with advanced degrees in science, technology, engineering, and math who are not currently employed in those professions. Mr. Musk, Ramaswamy, and others have argued we need a highly skilled and well-educated workforce. They're right. But the answer, however, is not to bring cheap labor abroad. The answer is to hire qualified American workers first to make certain that we have an education system that produces the kind of workforce our country needs for the jobs of the future. And that's not just engineering. We are in desperate need of more doctors, nurses, dentists, teachers, electricians, plumbers, and a host of other professions. 30 years ago, the economic elite and political establishment in both major parties told us not to worry about the loss of blue-collar manufacturing jobs, and that would come as a result of disastrous unfettered free trade agreements like NAFTA and permanent normal trade relations with China. They promised that those jobs would be more than offset by the many good-paying white-collar information technology jobs that would be created in the U.S. Well, that turned out to be a big lie. Not only have corporations exported millions of blue-collar manufacturing jobs to China, Mexico, and other low-wage countries, they're now importing hundreds of thousands of low-paid guest workers from abroad to fill white-collar technology jobs that are available. Then he goes into his income inequality shtick. This is literally too tiny for me to read, but he basically says, I'm dying. I'm like slowly dying. But he also says, hey, if there really is a shortage of skilled workers, why did Tesla lay off over 7,500 American workers this year, including many software developers and engineers at its factory in Austin, Texas, while being approved to employ thousands of H-1B guest workers? On and on and on. Bottom line, it should never be cheaper for a corporation to hire a guest worker from overseas than an American worker. Now, notice how he didn't participate in any race baiting, racism, even sort of like any coded language around the guests. I mean, he calls them guest workers or indentured servants, right? There is a fair amount of empathy there. So for me, I was really heartened to see like this is the way to weigh in on this conversation. And I'm struck by how few Democrats have done the same. And it's because they can't call out like neoliberalism, right? It's made them lose confidence from voters, right? Because they're never able to call out what has really contributed to the economy being shite.
Well, and I've been on a visa, and it is like one of the big things really is like you are just terrified the entire time of losing your job. Like, and I was just on a spousal visa, so I didn't even have control over that. I was just here with my wife at the time, and it's like you're just always afraid. Your boss has so much additional power and control over you. It's like the same way if you have good health insurance through your job, you're like terrified to lose it because you don't, how much is that going to cost you on the market? And it's like that enhanced by like 10 times. Cause it's also a thing where it's like, well, I might just have to like uproot my family and my whole life and like go back to a place where like I maybe, there are a lot fewer opportunities for me. So that's like the stressful, that's the thing that's kind of surprising to me that if the Democrats wanted an angle where they could have it sort of either go halfway or have it both ways, of a thing of trying not too much to upset like the big donors that they love so much in the tech industry, just trying to tackle the issue of like, if you lose your job, you don't have a lot of time afterwards to find a new one. And specifically the H-1B, I don't know specifically what the rules are if you lose your job, if you even have any time to find a new one, or if they, shuttle you back home right away. But like, that'd be like an easy spot for the Democrats to not even upset big donors that much. And they don't even talk about that ever.
Well, I actually don't see how they can criticize it without upsetting their big donors, because they sadly do take tech money, I mean, as well. But Jordan, you want to jump in, please?
Yeah, I think the education point that Sanders makes is a critical one. If your argument for the necessity of H-1B visas for roles in STEM, the tech sector specifically, is that we lack the training or expertise or experience or education here among the American workforce, well, if you care purportedly, like Trump claims he does, about American workers and American jobs, you would want to see a deeper investment in higher education institutions. But that's not what he's going to prioritize. In fact, we know he's going to do the opposite with the appointment of Linda McMahon, wife of disgraced former WWE CEO Vince McMahon. But that's not what they care about, and I think he lays it out perfectly. Yeah. This is about undercutting the American workforce, lowering labor costs. It's ultimately a way to disrupt any potential unionization efforts at these tech companies. And I also don't, I think what gets lost, and I don't think Bernie is deeply opposed to this system. I don't think anyone having this conversation about the risks of this program is inherently opposed to this program. It is that there should be safeguards and regulations in place that require H-1B visa workers to receive the exact same salary that their American counterparts would.
Right.
I think it's great. A diversity of backgrounds and perspectives will lead to better outcomes, maybe more productivity. I think it's great. And it ultimately represents what we all want America to be, this shining beacon on a hill where people want to come here and contribute. They want to work. Absolutely. We love it. That's what makes America a better place. But when you have somebody who is running a pretty explicitly anti-immigrant campaign, then turn around and be like, well, this is essential. You know why they're doing it. It's not about a diversity of a workforce or enriching a diverse workforce. It is purely about lowering labor costs and allowing corporations to increase their profits. That's it, plain and simple.
Right. And I do feel like the H-1B visa it's a little bit of a carve out for the tech sector in the grand plans for mass detention and deportation of immigrants, right? And it's saying, well, we want to still exploit our people, but like the agricultural sector can suck it, or any other sector can suck it. Not that, again, we shouldn't be for exploitation anyway, but there should be, more visas issued for people to freely move to this country to work and move back, as well as there should be, obviously, I do think there should be incentives, priorities for, workers who are in this country, right? There should be things, and you get that by obviously things that Bernie Sanders has advocated for, which is free college education, eliminating student debt, all that, on and on and on. So it's just like a really dangerous little knot to kind of make a foray into. And I at once like respect Sanders, but also I'm scared because, he's got his latest book is like, it's okay to be mad about capitalism. And it's funny because it took me a second to realize what he was like why he said it's okay to be. But do you guys know the meme, it's okay to be white, the white supremacist meme, it's okay to be white? So it's okay to be white was like, yeah, exactly. It's a neo-Nazi thing. They say it all the time. They put up stickers. It's okay to be white. It's okay to be white. And Bernie's book title was It's Okay to Be, same font. It's okay to be angry about capitalism. So he's so deliberately making this inroad into, hey, you have displaced anger that is headed towards, immigrants, women, trans people. Let's redirect that anger to capitalism. And I really appreciate that that without selling out part of his ideology, he is making these important interventions. I wish we saw that more from Democrats. I wish we saw that more, honestly, from some leftists who like to sell out without trying to change the narrative. But yeah. Anyway, TBD on all the H-1B. Yeah, that's it. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.